Lucy. We're back with another episode of Gen CFB. Oh my gosh, what a wild and wacky and wonderful weekend of college football it was.
It was so great. I just stayed at home. I didn't really do much. It was nice that both of our favorite teams were on byes. It was awesome.
It was great. And we're going to start right off the bat with, I think, the biggest game of the weekend. Michigan and Texas. A humongous deal when a top 10 team loses. So we're going to cover all of it. There are also some big upsets this weekend. Illinois and Kansas, we're looking at you. But let's start with Texas and Michigan. It was a big game for Texas. Texas, wow, they looked really good.
I kind of figured this would happen. We've talked about it a little bit, but Michigan should have never come into this season ranked in the top 10. That was just not appropriate considering every single thing that they had lost. We're at a weird day and age where we don't know who's good or not. And we never really know until week 4, except for that I think we can very confidently say Texas is very, very good. They're amazing. I think what was so impressive to me about this game is I knew Michigan's offense was going to struggle. They have a new quarterback. Everything is kind of wild and wonky, but their defense was supposed to still be really solid, and Texas made their defense look like shit. Just straight up shit.
Texas had definitely a great game plan offensively to try to keep the ball away from some of Michigan's best players. But I'm wondering if you think from the Michigan defense standpoint, is this just a situation where the longer your defense is on the field because your offense can't sustain drives, your excellent defense looks a little bit weakened? Or do you think that really their defense has just been overrated since week 1 and they're just not as good as they were last year?
That's a tough question to ask me because I personally would never know anything about a defense being really, really good and then having to stay on the field a really long time because their offense is really bad. That's not a situation I'm super personally familiar with.
Fair.
However, I could 100% see how that happened. I think Michigan still has a good defense, but I think that Texas proved that I think they're not as good as we thought, but also Texas is so much better than Michigan was. So Michigan will be fine. They'll bounce back. You're playing Big Ten offenses, which once again, I don't know anything about. Not familiar with Big Ten offenses even a little bit. So that's just a guess, educated guess from me.
There were a lot of college football fans doing the well, I guess Michigan isn't so good without Connor Stalions thing this weekend. It feels like it's mostly tongue in cheek, but is there any truth to them having a very sudden week 2 demise because of Connor Stalions now being removed from the program? Or is this because a ton of their players left for the NFL and they have a completely new coaching staff, or both?
Well, didn't Connor Stalions coach this weekend and lose by 60?
Apparently he was the interim coach of a high school game in Michigan. They lost 60-0. It didn't look so good. I guess maybe no advanced scouting for that game, which could be a problem, but yeah, not great.
I hope Netflix makes a doc about it.
Oh man. Well, like I mentioned, there was a big upset this weekend involving the state of Illinois. And that is, of course, Illinois upsetting Kansas, number 19 in the country. Kansas, without their play caller from last season who went to Penn State, who we've talked about before, hasn't really looked as good this year. They had a ton of turnovers in this game. But this was a pretty big win for Illinois to actually get this done. It was the first time they've beaten a ranked non-conference opponent at home since 2011 when they beat ASU. And this was also their first sellout at Memorial Stadium since 2016 when they played North Carolina. Taylor, were you at that game?
I was. Mitch Trubisky was our quarterback. Ryan Switzer, Mac Hollins at receiver. I'm pretty sure that was the opening game that year in Champaign.
Wow.
Yeah.
What history. You saw a sellout crowd in Urbana-Champaign. That's pretty special.
I believe it was Lovie Smith, too.
Yeah, I think it was Lovie Smith. Lucy, did you catch any of this one? It was a pretty big upset.
I did not catch any of this one. Like I said, I was just at home this weekend. Didn't have much going on. But, sometimes things just fall within the cracks. Illinois actually got a guy at quarterback. Luke Altmaier is really good. I don't expect this Illinois team to be solid, but you sold out a crowd, which they never do at Memorial Stadium. I've been to plenty of games there as well because I was there every year or every other year, whatever. So I'm not crazy shocked by this upset. We're also, once again, I keep saying it every single time I talk about college football this week, of we still don't know who's good or who's not good. So this win could mean literally nothing in 3 weeks. But I'm happy for Illinois. I'm happy they sold out. Memorial Stadium, not one of my favorite places to go, but good for them.
It was definitely an Illinois or a Kansas lost this rather than an Illinois won this game, right, Taylor? I think you watched some of this one.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels kind of came into this season, Kansas quarterback, with a ton of hype, and it felt like a game where if Kansas just kept running the ball, they were going to win because their running back, Devin Neal, was averaging over 7 yards per carry, but they would get in like these 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, and it was like Jalen Daniels like, let me show these scouts right now how big an arm I have. And there was also a crazy situation in this game where Kansas was up like 4, and there was a punt, and the Illinois returner muffed the punt. The ball goes into the end zone. He recovers it in the end zone. Everybody on Kansas is doing like the safety celebration, and the refs are like, no, that's not the rule. It's a touchback.
Well, Taylor, thanks for that update. We're feeling it the cheesiest this season with Cheez-It. It's college football season, Lucy, and Cheez-It's going to be here with us all year to recap the biggest games in college football. And that includes another upset of a ranked team, Georgia Tech, losing to Syracuse. Syracuse, with Kyle McCord in 2 games, has thrown for 635 yards and 8 touchdowns. He is the quarterback that transferred from Ohio State last year, and Syracuse's new head coach has said, thank you, Ohio State. We really needed this. What am I to make of Kyle McCord right now? It seems like he was struggling a lot last year, but also had some pretty good games, and now has like been putting up numbers. I know it's only week 2, but Syracuse upsetting Georgia Tech, I think it's fair to say like that's a pretty significant win for Syracuse this early.
Sure.
It's September, so they do tend to win in September.
Syracuse, for me, they're always the team that has one funny win every year where you're like, you shouldn't have beat them. How did that happen? I don't think that's this game. I think we've put Georgia Tech on a pedestal for beating a Florida State team that's now 0-2. My thing is, Kyle McCord has looked great at Syracuse, and it's not like he looks bad at Ohio State. I just don't think he was like Ohio State standards. Going from CJ Stroud to Kyle McCord is always going to be a downgrade no matter what situation you're at. I don't think Ohio State's necessarily like crying. Also, I don't know who Ohio State's played this year. Akron and Akron State are my guesses. So I don't really feel like they need Kyle McCord right now. My thing with Syracuse is if you look at that numbers, 635 yards, 8 touchdowns. What happens if he gets hurt, Syracuse? Your whole offense is based around him. And I'm glad it's working out, but like that you've put all your eggs in the Kyle McCord basket.
That brings us to another huge Maction game this weekend. I don't know if you caught any of this game. Ooh, it was spicy. Bowling Green and Penn State, the number 8 team in the country, Penn State, down to the wire against Bowling Green. Man, if you're ranked in the top 10, you cannot be playing a MAC school this close. And Penn State, this one was nearly a humongous upset for Penn State. Bowling Green's offense, too, they're a top 90 offense in college football and S&P plus, but they scored 24 points in the first half, Lucy. Penn State's supposed to have this great defense. What happened?
Penn State was trailing at half, which is crazy. And this was their home opener as well. Penn State, we watched the West Virginia game and we were so excited because we finally saw what we were missing from Penn State, which was the offensive spark, the playmaking ability. Maybe that's not what our focus should have been on this year. I don't know what's going on with Penn State's defense. I'm sure they'll be fine. Bowling Green, MAC school, probably better offenses than most Big Ten schools. I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't really get what they're talking about there, but I'm not too worried about this happening. It was just funny. It was just a funny weekend.
It's always hilarious when a top team is playing it close against a team that has no business playing them close. Everyone wants to get their laps in, but James Franklin showed his experience as a head coach. He pulled it off. There was another big upset in the MAC. Kent State lost to St. Francis. Absolutely crazy. And their next 2 games are against Tennessee and Penn State. So not a great start to the year for Kent State. Taylor, what do you have on MAC teams this weekend?
I was going to say with the Penn State Bowling Green game, I think what happened is Penn State looks so good against West Virginia. If there's one college football coach who's going to be reading every good press clipping about them, it's James Franklin. And I think he kind of let that get to his head. And now it's kind of like, okay, we had a close game against Bowling Green. Let's regroup and see where we're at.
Yeah, that's true. There is something to be said for teams that have a huge game in week 1 and then just have a big hangover game the next weekend. And I think that's probably, you could probably watch the first half of the Penn State game and say, okay, hangover game. They had a big win in Morgantown week 1 against West Virginia. Now they're playing against Bowling Green, and maybe they were just not mentally there when the game started, but they turned it around at halftime. They won the game. So no upset there, but super close. There was a lot of other big G5 action, Lucy, this weekend. I don't know if you know of this whole backstory with ULM and UAB, but wow. It was like a Bryant Vincent revenge game. He was the offensive coordinator at UAB before UAB was shut down. Then he became the interim coach in 2022 after Bill Clark resigned. He came back. He was not retained as the head coach. Trent Dilfer was hired as the head coach, despite Dilfer never being a college football coach before. He was a high school football coach, and of course, everyone knows Trent Dilfer from playing football, from his playing career. So Dilfer was hired at UAB, and Vincent was given the boot. Revenge game. ULM came in, beat UAB. What a absolutely bananas moment for Bryant Vincent.
Huge week for the group of 5. I'm glad that's all that happened.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if you want to talk about more like close calls for top 25 teams, the Oklahoma State-Arkansas game was absolutely crazy. Went into 2 overtimes. It looked like Arkansas was doing anything possible to lose that game. Like they outgained Oklahoma State by like 300 yards or something crazy. I don't have it in front of my face right now, but oh my God, was that a absolute giveaway to Oklahoma State to keep them in the top 25?
That was my favorite part of that game was just like not only there's like the innate desire of Arkansas to lose, but getting into overtime and both teams missing their game-winning field goal in overtime. Both of them doing it was it was just like the most Oklahoma State-Arkansas game ever. Because Oklahoma State beat South Dakota State last week, which is like actually an insanely impressive win. I don't believe South Dakota State had lost in like several years. So I kind of thought this game wasn't going to go in this direction, but like no matter what the circumstance was, no matter what the score was, I would have put money on Arkansas to find a way to lose. Not Oklahoma State finding a way to win, but Arkansas finding a way to lose. Sam Pittman's seat is so hot. And you know what I think they should do? I think they should go tried and true and promote the offensive coordinator.
And
Bobby Petrino.
We all know who that is, but the one and only. I think losing a game with a missed field goal has to be one of the worst feelings you could feel as a college football player. Like I luckily can't super relate to it, but it must feel terrible. What's up, Taylor? What do you got? Watching
Sam Pittman trying to coach that game made me want to throw up. He was like running time off the clock. His players were like body slamming people in overtime, and it just kept cutting to him, and he was just sweaty in the sun. I'm like, man, this guy's having a rough day right now.
He has a certain like buyout clause where his buyout is more expensive if he's above 500, right, Lucy? So like every one of these wins is really important if you think he's on the hot seat, which, like you said, he definitely is after these last couple of years.
He is for sure. And I've talked to Taylor about this before. Arkansas is one of the teams I'm like weirdly very interested in because in this NIL day and age, Arkansas is in like such a prime spot to succeed because they don't have like an incredibly wealthy fan base, but their top donors are like Walmart money. Like they have so much money that they could succeed with. And they're like, nope, woo pig, we're doing this the natural way. Sorry, we need to lose our games.
Okay, Lucy, moving over to the SEC. We had a close game between Alabama and USF for the second year in a row. We had Auburn losing to Cal at home. We had Tennessee blowing out NC State. I want to talk about Auburn real quick, though, because how is this going for Hugh Freeze? Like, losing to Cal at home, kind of shocking. Like, Cal's best player, Jay Knott, didn't even really play that well in this game. I think he's hurt. So what happened there?
Woke mind virus got him again.
Oh, man.
I would say, one, if you haven't, go look at just like the Cal Twitter accounts, not the specific university ones, but like the top now. Cal. They have been, this is the funniest I've ever seen a fan base after a win because they are just hammering this woke mind virus. The thing with Auburn that's so interesting is Auburn is another school that has money, that has donors, and they could have gone out and gotten a quarterback and they were like, nope, we got a quarterback at home and his name is Peyton Thorne. And now you're like, you know what? That he may have been expired. I don't necessarily know if this was the right call. So I didn't really like buy into the hype of Auburn being really good this year because they didn't make the one change that I felt like they needed to make. But this is just a good old fashioned ACC SEC game with the woke mind virus.
That's true. I mean, sometimes it is really as simple as like your most important position is quarterback. The quarterback had a bad game. I mean, Peyton Thorne threw 4 interceptions in this game. Sometimes bad quarterback games happen and you have to just either move on or move forward with someone else. And so I don't know what the status will be with Thorne moving forward, but definitely a really disappointing game for him. I thought the Tennessee-NC State game went exactly how we thought it was going to go. Nico Iamaleava, not his best game, definitely didn't play as well as he played against Chattanooga, but still looked pretty impressive at times. And NC State just really didn't have an answer on offense.
Yeah, that's what the most surprising thing about not Penn State. I don't know why I said Penn State. Tennessee has been this year. Their defense looks great. their defense has looked really good. James Pierce is one of the best players in the entire country. And so that was kind of what was missing from Tennessee the last few years, is like that we've always known they've had this amazing offense. Like, to see them sort of pick things up on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I'm not saying that NC State is some prolific offense by any means, but for Tennessee to be able to hold their own on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be really tough in the SEC this year. I think they're kind of like we clearly see Georgia, Texas, and then I think Alabama, Tennessee are kind of at the same level, like right below that right now. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Tennessee pull off kind of an upset against someone who we think is better than them, whether that be Alabama or Georgia.
Okay, we obviously want to preview the Week 3 games, but before we do, Nebraska and Colorado was the primetime Peacock game this week. I don't know if you caught any of it, but Nebraska, good defense. Dylan Raiola looked really good, but Colorado also seems like they're falling apart already in Week 2. There's a story about the band not being allowed to play the fight song anymore. They have to play Shadur Sanders' song, and then Colorado said, no, that's not true, but they do play a few seconds of Shadur Sanders' song. I don't know what's true or what's not true. What I do know, Lucy, is that it doesn't look like Colorado has really fixed any of the problems that plagued them last season. Are things really as off the rails as they looked in this game?
I think I don't even want to say that they're not as nothing's been fixed like last season. I think they've gotten worse slightly. I think they found a way to get worse, which is shocking considering all the turnaround they have in that program. This season was always going to go out play this way for Colorado. And I think that you're looking at a vastly improved Nebraska team who has been the victim of 1,010,000 close losses to teams they probably should have beaten over the last 5 years. So all of this has just been building up and just growing and growing and growing. And Nebraska was going to have that moment. And of course, it comes against not only their rival Colorado, but a team that gets a ton of praise. So I'm not really shocked by any of this at all. Colorado is a bad football team. They're bad. And that's okay to say. They're just not very good.
Sometimes teams that you think are good just maybe aren't as good as you thought they were. And
we wouldn't know anything about that,
Those were the only games this weekend. So we're going to be back after the break with some Week 3 and look ahead to what's coming up on the slate this weekend, Lucy.
So we have a new sponsor to help us preview Week 3, since Jess and I both had this last week off. Not much going on in the college football world there. So this week we're getting nutty with Hampton Farms Peanuts, the official snack nut of the tailgate. I swear that I have seen some Hampton Farms peanuts at the first game I went to, Texas A&M. I didn't go anywhere last week, so I don't believe I saw any of the Hampton Farms peanuts because I wasn't anywhere.
I gotta say, Lucy, I love a snack nut.
Love it.
Love it. Thank you, Hampton Farms Peanuts for the sponsorship. Ooh, okay. Taylor, are you able to play us this clip of Bill O'Brien? Because this was one of the funniest things I saw this past weekend. And lo and behold, Boston College, Missouri this weekend, a ranked matchup now. 24 Boston College at number 6 Missouri. Here's Bill O'Brien.
On the TV broadcast, they mentioned that you showed clips of FBS teams beating FCS teams pretty handedly.
I never showed one clip.
Okay, yes.
Not one time. I don't know where they got that from. They didn't get it from me.
Interesting. Okay,
You'll always get the truth from me.
No, that's why I wanted to ask.
Guys about
FBS. They said that on the TV.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know the difference between FBS, FCS, NCIS, CIA. I have no idea. I just know that Duquesne is a tough football team, and we had to be ready to play them. And I never showed one clip of any of that. Never.
Shout out to Bill O'Brien, 2-0 to start the season at Boston College. Just to clear things up, FBS Football Bowl Subdivision, FCS Football Championship Subdivision, NCIS Naval Criminal Investigative Service on CBS, starring former UCLA quarterback Mark Harmon, the son of Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Tom Harmon, and CIA Central Intelligence Agency, known for a number of controversial entanglements, which we won't get into here, Lucy. But you got all that?
I did not know that's what NCIS stood for.
What did you think it stood for?
I thought the N was national.
No, they do
National
like
Criminal Investigative Service.
I used to watch a lot of NCIS for some reason. It was always on like after soccer practice.
And it was I've never seen it. So it's all
Mark Harmon was hot.
Naval Criminal Investigative Service related.
They investigate murders and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes terrorism. There was this guy named La Grenouille the Frog. He was like a French arms dealer. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I think Missouri will win this game. If by chance they don't, what will have Boston College done well?
Oh, I don't know. I think Missouri's going to win this game. I really don't even think it's going to be a question. I think Boston College is another team that we're like, yeah, you beat Florida State. And now we're like, I think everybody could beat Florida State. So I don't necessarily know if that's a top 25 catapult. I think Missouri is better than Boston College. I believe it's a home game. I'm not too worried about this.
I think if Castellanos goes ham and has like 3 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns just all by himself, I don't know. I think it could be fun, but I'm with you. I think Missouri's going to win this game. Friday night, number 20, Arizona, and number 17, Kansas State.
So for this Arizona-Kansas State game, Kansas State won at Tulane last week in like the weirdest possible fashion. Like they probably should have lost that game because there was a weird like offensive pass interference on a touchdown that would have tied this game up for Tulane that ended up getting called. Like the whole thing was kind of like wonky. So this is probably a game that it should be. Arizona's ranked a little bit higher than Kansas State. Arizona has an elite offense. They have an elite wide receiver in Tet McMillan. Like this is going to be like, I think honestly the game of the week. The only reason that we're not really getting the hype behind it is because it's a Friday night game.
Boo.
Not Saturday.
I hate Friday night college football games.
Gross.
I want everything to be Saturday so I can just watch it all like at once on 7 different devices. But you're going to the Alabama-Wisconsin game this weekend. So you're back on the road after your weekend off. Alabama, we saw them struggle again to USF this past weekend, but then in the fourth quarter, they just kind of like decided they were done screwing around and just beat the brakes off of South Florida in the fourth quarter. Wisconsin, obviously, like we've discussed their struggles before, sort of finding their identity on offense after Luke Fickell came in and tried to change the entire program's offensive identity to kind of be redundant. But I have Alabama winning this game, even though Camp Randall, a fun but tough place to play. Will we be seeing a sad jump around in the third quarter?
Yeah, I think we will. Alabama Tampa gets the best of all of us sometimes. You know, it's just a natural thing that happens. That's their kryptonite is USF. Wisconsin struggled week 1. They looked a lot better last week. I just think that Alabama is a lot more talented. Wisconsin's still figuring things out. But the one thing I know about Wisconsin fans is they're going to drink regardless, and they'll show up for jump around, and then they'll leave, and it'll be okay, and they'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, the jump around is one of the things that made me afraid. Like I did a college visit to Wisconsin and did the jump around and was like, this is scary. Like I feel like this stadium is not gonna, it's just moving and I don't like it. But it's a lot of fun. So I'm excited for you. You're gonna have a great time, Lucy.
Thanks.
There's a few rivalry games this weekend too. The Apple Cup, the Backyard Brawl. We've got Colorado at Colorado State, a rematch of that crazy game last year. Went into wee hours of the morning that we all watched. Anything else before we go that you want to talk about, Lucy? The floor is yours.
I believe so. We do have the Apple Cup. I also believe the Civil War is this weekend. So it's a big week for the Pac-12 rejects. I'm not 100% positive the Civil War is this weekend, but Washington State. Washington State beat the brakes off Texas Tech, and they'll probably beat Washington this week.
I think Texas Tech is. I think they're bad.
They are bad.
They're giving me bad.
But
vibes.
I think Washington is also bad.
Well, there you have it. All right, Lucy. It's been fun. I miss you.
I miss you.
I'm sad we were both, very busy this last weekend and had pretty much
just personal stuff going on. It's nobody's business, really.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm looking forward to a rejuvenation in week 3. We'll be back better than ever.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. We have Cheez-Its and we have snack nuts, and we're very happy.
We're full. Literally and metaphorically.